Welcome into Studio A. It is that time of week again. Kyle, what time of week is it?
All-American time.
All-American time. Maria Trivelpiece, Kyle Youmans. We have a lot to talk about today because there's a big game coming up and some sneaky games that people maybe don't have on their radar that I think are big games. And we got to cover what happened this past week because a lot in the American going on right now.
There were records broken.
Whew.
There were upsets. There were top 25 teams emerging, other ones leaving the top 25, and we've still got a big old kerfuffle at the beginning of this conference standings.
What a good word.
We just got all sorts of stuff right there at the top. Look at everybody from Navy down to East Carolina. The whole left side of the screen only has one conference loss. One of them things. And we've got a long way to go whenever it comes to the college football season. There is still a lot to be decided over the next month and a half of football.
Well, it's wild because I feel like so many things have happened, and then I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, actually, like so much more needs to happen.
Yeah.
Navy at the top of the conference at 5-0, but their November is like
crazy,
sickening. Like if you exciting but sickening. So
sickening.
that's the only way I could describe it. Like if you were game planning and you're the Navy midshipman, you're like, oh my goodness, we do not come up for air at all, which is a good thing. That's why you play college football. So yeah, lots about to happen. But we got to talk about what happened this past week.
Let's talk about it. Let's start with the biggest game of the week by far in the American Conference, and it happened to happen in the Liberty Bowl. How about Memphis and the Tigers getting it done? A Bluey dub. I like this. How about that? You get to record this on a Bluey camera?
Okay, I'm going to give you the backstory on this,
okay.
All right? So let's let it play for a second just to hear the nice loudness of the stadium after Memphis wins, the recording on the Bluey camera. Okay?
This is a baby monitor.
Okay, no. Here, let me explain. So South Florida has been crushing the social media game, right? They've been recording on Ring cameras, Nintendo DSs, all of it. I saw
the one that was on like it was a backup camera.
Yeah,
and they just hooked it up.
Like, first of all, we have to give credit where credit is due. Yeah. The South Florida social media team is crushing it. So what happened on Saturday was they were recording on
a Bluey camera.
No, they were not recording. What did it say? Baby monitor. Baby monitor. South Florida was recording on the baby monitor, right? They lost the game, so they didn't post the footage from the baby monitor.
And Memphis knew this.
And Memphis knew it. And Memphis was recording on the Bluey camera.
The amount of petty.
Yes. And so they were like searching and found that they had the baby monitor. Then they posted their Bluey footage, and then they tagged South Florida and was like, where's your baby monitor footage? So like, first of all, South Florida, shout out. You are crushing the social media game. Social media from Memphis trolling them. Like, this is what we live for.
That was chess, not checkers. Oh. You're thinking 3-4 moves ahead, Memphis. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. I hope that this segment gets back to the Memphis social media team. That might be one of the greatest things. And I did not see this prior to stepping into the studio. I was watching film. I was watching football. I did not know this was a thing. I am so impressed right now.
Right.
You have no idea.
Right.
I hope they hear about this because that was sweet. Well done. Well done, Memphis.
I just love we don't give the social media teams enough credit
they
in
need
general.
A raise.
They really do because the creativity from the social media teams across the country, not across the country, but especially across this conference has been so much fun this year.
Yeah.
And you know, there's fights on the field, little battles on the field, and now the social media teams.
Maria, I love talking about social as much as you do, except I probably don't. I need to talk about this football game. 34-31 was the final. And you know who else needs a raise? Maybe Ryan Silverfield needs a raise because he kept this Memphis team awake throughout South Florida taking over midway through that second half and really having control of this football game. It didn't last very long because Memphis storms back, gets the job done. First ranked home win since Memphis took down number 24 SMU back in 2021. You had Brendan Lewis have a career day, over 307 passing yards, and what he was able to do was incredible. Byron Brown, we knew he was real. We knew what he could do. This 44-yard touchdown, hurdling a guy was incredible. But, man, Brendan Lewis, he is also the real deal.
Well, the thing with Brendan Lewis, too, is you weren't sure on his health status, right? Because he's been a little bit banged up. And the fact that he was still able to do that and basically put this team on his back after that tough loss to UAB, I think that the reason that Ryan Silverfield brought Brendan Lewis to Memphis, and we heard it at the beginning of the season, is because he had a ton of college football experience underneath his belt, right? And so now that he is able to show up in those big, or not that he's not. He was not unable to do it before. He's able to show up in those big games. Ryan Silverfield wanted that leadership. He got it from Brendan Lewis, and that's a big reason why the Tigers were able to beat this really successful Bulls team.
Absolutely. Lewis, you don't win the game if you don't have Brendan Lewis at quarterback. But Memphis could have laid down when it was 21-7. In the final minutes of the second quarter, they had an early sack on that drive, their final drive of the first half, and they were down by 2 scores. You could have just kind of sat back and let that game happen, because if Memphis loses to South Florida, I don't think anybody bats an eye. That's how talented South Florida is. But instead, they kept driving. They scored right before halftime, and in my opinion, that was when the tide turned in this game, because it took a big throw late in the game. Jamari Hawkins over the top of the middle. In the middle of the fourth quarter. Then you had the 4th down and 4 conversion where Douzable made an open field move that allowed for that first down to happen, and then they go down and they score. Crazy stuff all the way through. And then for it to end on a missed field goal when South Florida has won some pretty notable games this year with special teams play and special teams players of the week, and Grammatica talking all the way through his season, and we've had plenty of conversations about it. For them to miss the field goal at the end was wildly poetic for Memphis Tigers fans. This was a fun game to watch. It was one of the best Group of 5 games of the entire season. These are 2 of the best teams in the Group of 5, and they will continue to be so. I'm excited to see where they go from here, because we just saw how Memphis rebounds. How does South Florida continue to rebound as well?
Well, and you take a look at Memphis's remaining schedule, and I think this was the test for me. How do they rebound against South Florida? Because their season is still very much in front of them. We looked at the standings at the beginning of the year, and they're favored in all of these matchups that they have coming up. And so if they can win out these games, they put themselves in a good position to still be in that American Championship game. Absolutely.
They are definitely not out of it. And we talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago now, but when UAB defeated Memphis, the conversation turned to, well, Memphis can't get into the college football playoff because they have that loss there. But because of the way that the American Conference has situated themselves above the rest of the Group of 5, there's going to be a 1-loss or possibly 2-loss American team that's going to make it into the college football playoff as long as they win the conference title. So they still have very much so everything in front of them. So does everybody on this roster, including South Florida. South Florida is going to need a little bit of help. They got to get into the conference title game, and they got to win, and then maybe get some help from some of the other Group of 5 leaders like a UNLV or a Boise or some of these other schools to fall off at the end. I really do think the American has set themselves up as a whole, and that benefits Memphis in this game, and they knew it going in. They had to win this football game to keep their hopes alive. They're very much so alive, if not thriving at this point in time.
I think the team that wins the American will be the team that is the most consistent this entire season. So Memphis loses to UAB. They rebound. Can they be consistent the rest of the year? And they start with Rice coming up this week. And the thing with Rice and any team in the American, there's no easy game for anybody, because I think all of these teams are so talented that anyone could win on any team can win on any given day. And we saw Rice do that this past weekend in a big way.
Let's talk about it.
A touchdown wins it for Rice here in the second OT. Jackson breaking free! Quinton Jackson calls game with a 23-yard touchdown!
Wow. Ted Emmerich on the call for ESPN College Football. What a win this was for Quinton Jackson and the Rice Owls. This was the Quinton Jackson game. My goodness, this guy went off. How about 2 touchdowns in the first half, both of 70-plus yards, on the one on the ground, one through the air, 73 yards, 75 yards. How did he continue? Oh, in overtime, he reaches the edge in overtime number 1. Then you go into overtime number 2, and then he's outside the edge, and he catches the big play there. What a game from Quinton Jackson, and what he did in this game, putting himself on the map as a legitimate weapon on this Rice Owls offense.
I think my favorite part about this game was his post-game interview, right? He was talking about the team needing this win, and because of that, that's why he just wanted to play a little bit extra. And I think that we've talked a lot about Rice on this show, and they've had some ups and some downs, but you and I called that game, what was it, week 2? There's been so many
Houston
weeks.
and Rice,
yes. And we saw some really good signs from that program early on, and so now I like to see when they play a good opponent in UConn. We previewed this game last week. The fact that they're able to beat what was a 5-2 team and then also do it in overtime, I think it just starts to show that culture that's continuously being built by Scott Abel when they can win those tight matchups in pressure situations.
Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning of the season. The speed that Rice has on the outside is dangerous whenever they get that edge. Quinton Jackson is the speed. That is the guy that you have to worry about, and UConn had no answer. And I want to give a lot of credit here to what Rice did on the defensive side of the ball too, because the first offensive play from scrimmage for the Huskies in this game was an 80-yard touchdown. What happened from there? Well, Rice forced 3 straight punts going into the second quarter, and sometimes all you need is just that little drought, that little confidence boost in order to give yourself some success and just provide reps for your offense at the latest. So they were able to give that drought. They were able to take advantage with some points, and when things got tight in the second half and both teams started scoring again, Rice had already found their groove on offense because of that time period. I really do think this game was won by the explosive plays of the Rice Owls offense, more specifically in Quinton Jackson, but it was also by Rice not allowing the big play outside of the 80-yarder on the opening offensive possession. They didn't allow the big play from UConn, and that was a key.
Well, I think coaches talk a lot about complementary football, and it sounds like coach speak, but you see it playing out in games like this because, like you said, you just need that little bit of a drought to get the defense confident, and then the offense gives them an opportunity to perform on their side of the ball. So I think that this is another nice check in this first year of Scott Abel, and I think that they can continue this success as they move along in the season. Now they have a really tough opponent in Memphis this week. And so when we just talked about the Tigers, when you take a look at both of these two teams, Kyle, for you, give me your keys for each of them.
Well, I think if you're Rice, and I'll start with them, you have to go in with the confidence that anybody in the league, just as Maria just outlined, can win on any given day. Memphis lost to UAB. Rice has just as much talent, if not more, than UAB. So to say that it can't happen is not possible. It is a possible thing for Rice to win this football game, but in order to do that, they have to be consistent. Both on the offensive side and defensive side, you cannot take a single play off. You got to be at your best all the way through it. And if you're Memphis, you got to adjust to the change of style. Because Rice, with that spread option, with the different look that you're going to see across the board, is a little different than what you've seen from UAB, from South Florida last week. You're going to have an adjustment there. Don't allow Rice to gain that consistency. So it's really trying to break the mold in between. Whoever does that the best is going to end up winning this football game.
I think it's going to be a fun one. I think it's interesting to see a Memphis team that just rebounded big against South Florida and a Rice team with a big overtime win over a good UConn opponent. Yeah. And so, I don't know. I'm excited about it. I think that this is my favorite time of year because every game means just a little bit more for any team stepping on the field. And so I can't wait.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that UConn team later on because we're going to see them again this week because of another American foe that's going to face them in non-conference play. But before we get there, we had another overtime game, and it was in conference action. How about the Temple Owls? Most wins and off to their best start in a season since 2019. Temple gets an overtime win, 38-37 in overtime. And my goodness, this was a great football game.
A great game in Tulsa between Temple and Tulsa. I actually got to be there alongside somebody that has joined All-American before, Douzable, and he's here with us again today. Lige, hello. It's been a couple days since I saw you.
I know it's been so long since I saw you, right, Maria? 2 weeks in a row. You gave me some gruff about doing other conference games, and now you can't get rid of me.
I know I jinxed myself, but we do love when you're on American games, and I feel like every time you're on an American game, then something crazy happens. In this case, it was an overtime thriller between Temple and Tulsa. So I know I was there, but I want to get your perspective. Coming into this game, did you foresee it being what it was?
I knew it would be tight. We had the privilege of sitting down with Trey Lamb, and he talked about how they had a grueling schedule in the American Conference. When you talked about conference play, their first couple games, they played most of the top teams in the American Conference. So they felt like this week versus Temple would be a week where they could start to maybe string some wins together. And it came down to the wire. And I love the gutsiness of his call to go for it in the first overtime to just win the game and not extend the game. Just didn't execute down the stretch. Brody Foley played out of his mind. Just couldn't get enough on the ball. Blitzer came through the A-gap, hit his arm, couldn't get it to his tight end, Julian Roberts, for the go-ahead 2-point conversion and win. And you're seeing some of the highlights here. Temple came out. Evan Simon is, pinpoint accurate throwing the football. A guy that doesn't turn it over. He gets Jay Ducker involved right there to the flat of the end zone. This literally was a quarterback battle.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was something that we were going to think about going into this game, Maria. We thought it would be a duel of the running backs, maybe, with Dominique Richardson and also Jay Ducker. It became that was a dot, literally. Fading away, corner route, Brody Foley puts it out there in front where only he can catch it. And he had another back shoulder fade to Brody Foley to send this game into overtime. That was a dot by Baylor Hayes as well. So it was high quarterback play. Yes, the running backs got involved, but I think that's what surprised me more than anything. Like the moxie of this young kid. Look at that throw right there to Grayson Tempest on the run out. Pressure comes off the right side. He steps up, squares up, and throws an absolute dot on the out route. Like, again, quarterback battle back and forth in this game.
Yeah, when you talk about the Owls, you can't go very far without talking about Evan Simon and what he has done this year, taking care of the football, driving the offense down the field, and really being the guy that everybody turns to in that Owls program. I mean, what did you see throughout the process leading into this game, and then, of course, watching it on the field, on the road in Tulsa, and how he was able to execute?
Yeah, man, I was talking to Tulsa's defensive coordinator, Josh Ritter, and I was just speaking from a defensive player's perspective. I said, think about Evan Simon. As a defensive player, I love a quarterback like that. A guy that doesn't put the ball in harm's way, who's efficient with the football, knows where to go with the football, processes quick, and he's not going to go broke taking a profit.
Yeah.
And you see his numbers right there, like from this past week, like when somebody's open, that first read is open, guys, he's throwing the football. He's keeping them ahead of the change. I think that's the most important job as a quarterback is to get everybody involved in your offense. But if the first guy is open, get him the football, right? There's no need for you to keep going through your progressions. You want to stay ahead of the change. That way it's favorable to you with the yardage and the down and distance, right? The playbook opens up if you stay ahead of the change. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks, not just in the American, but in the nation at doing that, keeping them ahead of schedule as far as down and distance. So that's exactly what we saw. That's what I expected to see watching the film, and that's exactly what we saw versus Tulsa this past weekend.
Now, Lige, I know I give you a hard time about calling different conferences, but you have covered the American for a couple of years now, and this Temple team is just different than Temple teams in years past. So for you, getting to talk with the coaching staff and just getting to be around them a little bit now, what do you think is that X factor? Like, what is different?
Casey Keeler, without a doubt, right? He has the ties to the Northeast. He's back home. He's comfortable where it's gritty, where it's muddy, where it's dirty. You always hear 10th and Diamond, Temple Tough, and it kind of fits his mantra and his aura. That's who Casey Keeler is. And Maria, we sat down and talked to him, and he was saying that at every stop he's been at, he's kind of had unrealistic expectations. He said, if you sign on to play with me, don't live in the real world. I don't want you to be realistic. People don't feel like we can get to a bowl game. We're going to show them that we can. People don't feel like we should be playing for the American Conference Championship. We're going to show them that we can. And I feel like the team is starting to believe that they are a really good team. And Coach even said that when we met with him. He was like, it was probably after that Navy game where the team was like, we let that one get away. Like, we technically were probably a better team than them. we're actually a good team. And they went and showed it. And even though they dealt with a lot of adversity in this game, going back and forth, the defense, coming up with that big stop at the end when Tulsa went for 2, that epitomizes what this team is. Matter of fact, I go back to your interview with Evan Simon. That was the first thing he said, Maria, when you asked about this team. He said the culture of the team. And that's what Casey Keeler has brought to the Temple Owls.
Of course, they've got an East Carolina matchup this week that is going to be another test. I mean, you look up and down their schedule, I think this could be argued as their toughest test so far, but it won't be their final test as you take a look at Tulane and North Texas. Even that Army game coming up next week is going to be a tough one too. They're sitting at 5 wins. Yeah. They've got to find one more to become bowl eligible for the first time since 2019. Do you feel like they have a chance at doing so with probably the toughest remaining schedule in the conference outside of Navy?
I would say this. They're a tough out at home. They're a tough out anywhere, but especially at home. We saw that in the Navy game, right? It took Horvath a Herculean effort run to win that game, and then also going for it on 2, rolling out to his route right and finding his receiver to win that game in overtime and at the end of regulation, But one thing I will say, like East Carolina coming to them, that's going to be a tough game for East Carolina. Now, they have an explosive offense, but Temple has just been tough to win, to lose at home, right? Now, they did lose games earlier this season. I believe they played Oklahoma at home, and they also played Navy at home, and they lost those games. But everybody else, they've been able to take care of. And again, the Navy game could have went either way, and they could have potentially won that game. Oklahoma's a top 25 team. So you got a team like Tulane late in November. It's going to be a little nippy, right? Different from what Tulane's accustomed to. Yes, they have a tough American Conference schedule going down the pike. I do believe this team gets into a bowl game. They're going to win at least one more game. And I would not be surprised if they win 3 out of 4 just because they're that tough to contend with.
Yeah.
And I want to pivot a little bit from Temple to their opponent in that last game, Tulsa, because it's a 1-point game, and I think for how good Temple played, Tulsa was right in there with them, and I think Baylor Hayes really stepped up in this game, Lige. So from your perspective, what stood out to you about the young quarterback?
The maturation of the young quarterback. We already knew what his moxie was like, and that's why Coach Trey Lamb went with him, because he said he felt like the team understood the confidence that he had, and everybody had confidence in Baylor Hayes. He also adds an element with his mobility, and you see his numbers right there, 19 of 31, threw for nearly 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. But it was the calmness in the pocket, right? Most young quarterbacks, when they get outside the pocket, they're looking to tuck their head and run. He kept his head down the field, and you heard at halftime when you spoke with Trey Lamb, he talked about some of those off-platform throws, right? With Baylor still keeping his eyes down the field to find receivers. It was just like the play was never over for this kid. And under duress and pressure, that's when he was cool, calm, and collective. Like, we literally saw him grow up before our eyes, because talking to Coach Lamb, like, when you go back to the week before East Carolina, the first quarter, it was just like he was like a deer in headlights. He was skipping passes to receivers, literally on simple screen passes, dirting them instead of getting them the ball. Now, he played really good the last 3 quarters, and I think that kind of spearheaded into this game where he was playing with a lot of confidence because of how he ended that game versus East Carolina. But I love that he came out and, like, literally, he wasn't gun shy. He literally was like, we technically have nothing to lose. Like, nobody believes in us. You know, I'm a redshirt freshman. I believe this is my 4th or 5th start. I'm going to lay it on the line. And I felt like that picked up the rest of the team, and the rest of the team kind of felt his aura and his moxie, and it gave everybody else on that offense confidence.
Now, you mentioned it a minute ago. I just want to bring it up again because it was such a great throw, and I didn't get to talk about it initially. But the throw that he had at the back of the end zone on a dot, I mean, I could hear your reaction on the television tape, but what was going through your mind when you saw the throw? Because he was pressured. He's just retreating as quickly as he can, trying to get the ball away, and he put it on the money.
And in those scenarios, you'll see a lot of quarterbacks get anxious and maybe sail that out the back of the end zone or leave it short.
Yep.
His calmness to slowly but surely backpedal just enough to create space, That way he can get enough on the pass. And it was the touch pass element of it, right? Sometimes it's not all about just firing laser beams. You got to have touch as a quarterback. Your coaches say all the time, can he make layer throws? Can he make touch throws? That was one of the best touch throws I've seen in college football this year. Under duress, under pressure, young quarterback drifting backwards to get enough to put it where only Brody Foley can come down with the football. That was big time by Baylor Hayes.
It was an incredible play across the board. Now, Tulsa, of course, they didn't want to start 0-5 in conference play. They had that big win earlier in the campaign against Oklahoma State that they felt like they were really moving in the right direction. How do they turn it around and end the season strong, Lige? Because this is a team that I think we've talked about it multiple times. We have faith that they will find a groove under Trey Lamb. How do they do it in 2025?
They just got to be consistent, right? I think the thing that's plagued them, and we talked to Trey Lamb about this, was like you go back to the ECU game, you see the rest of their schedule, which are all winnable games right now. Again, you got to show up every week, but Florida Atlantic, Oregon State has really struggled this year at Army, and then UAB, who actually has some momentum now after beating Memphis the previous week. But those are all winnable games. And Trey Lamb talked about that. He was like, when you looked at the schedule, we played the toughest teams in the American early in the season.
Yeah.
Now it's about playing guys that are kind of in our class, our weight class. Can we get it done now? They had an opportunity to win. And if you're a player on that team, you have to love that your coach had enough faith in you to go for the win after the first overtime, which means he has faith in everybody on that entire offense. The thing that's plagued them, man, is they haven't been able to play complementary football. It's like every time they get momentum, the defense either gives up an explosive play or they give up a score. That plagued them in the ECU game, and it plagued them last week versus Temple. So they got to get that side of the ball to be able to play some complementary football because the offense is playing really well the last couple of weeks. Baylor Hayes and his receivers are playing with a lot of confidence. They just got to be able to play some complementary football on the defensive side.
Yeah, that's exactly what Trey Lamb told us, too, in the meetings, was just finding ways to play that complementary football. In the first half, they did it, and that's why they were up at the half. But, Lige, thank you so much for joining All-American today, and I won't give you too much of a hard time for your game next week. We're glad that we had you the last 2 weekends.
Appreciate you guys.
There he goes, Lige Douzable, constantly on our American games.
Yeah.
He does a great job, and I love his insight, too. And I think...
And his energy.
Oh, my goodness.
He has the best energy.
Absolutely. It's infectious. You can't be sad or monotone when you're around Lige.
How's it working with him, too? I'm sure it's probably the exact same off the air.
You know how we like to make fun of each other? And
Yeah.
Same thing.
Nice.
Yeah. Total.
That's
lot
my
of
guy.
fun. Yeah.
We hung out at the Senior Bowl for a split second last year, and that was the first time I ever got to interact with him in person. Same thing on the air that you get off the air. He's a great job. He does a great job, and he's a great person as well. We love having him on the show. Speaking of great people that are good at what they do, how about one of the Armed Forces Academies, the Navy midshipmen, who are undefeated? Here's a little trivia question for you. How many times has Navy started the season 7-0, Maria Trivelpiece?
I don't know. Do you know?
The answer to that is 5 times. How about that? 5 times.
We were waiting for our producer, Zach Fisher, to give us the answer for
Yeah.
that. Thank
1926, 1934, 1960, 1978. That was a great year. And now 2025.
Whew.
That's how good this Navy midshipman team is. Let's take you through what they did against Florida Atlantic. 42-32, the final score from that matchup against FAU. And Maria, when you talk about what they've done across the board against the Owls, they made sure that they were the best team on the field.
Well, I think that the score actually doesn't even show how well Navy played because it looks a little bit closer than it was. I think Navy dominated most of this game, but there were some moments where they maybe could have cleaned some things up, and Brian Newberry talked about that as well. But I think the thing about Navy is that they just find ways to win football games. It's not always the prettiest. I mean, that Temple game, Temple outplayed them, especially in the first half. But I think that's why they're 7-0 is because they just have that X factor that coaches try to get out of teams, that they could win games despite what's going on, what mistakes are made.
Yeah, and I think FAU did what they needed to prove that they aren't that far off from being a contender in this conference. I mean, they connected with the big play. Look at this throw from Caden Veldkamp all the way down to the back of the end zone. Just an incredible throw. Big-time play to Platt to start the game, scoring on their opening drive. But then Navy kept early control despite the fumble, the immediate touchdown a couple plays later. Florida Atlantic was in this football game, but it was still a Navy-controlled game all the way throughout.
Well, I think the one thing we've talked so much on this show about is Florida Atlantic's offense and Caden Veldkamp. And when they can have those big plays, they put themselves in a position to at least win or put themselves in a position to win the game. And I think that Navy did a good job responding even when those big plays happen. They'd come and have another they basically respond in a variety of different ways. And so I just think that with the midshipmen now entering this part of the season, this is what they needed. They needed to get this last 7th win before they enter the Gauntlet of November.
Oh, they needed this one bad. And I think you saw where Navy can be beat is if they do make mistakes. And Blake Horvath doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, but they made a couple of them in this matchup. And that fourth quarter, by the way, the fourth quarter of this game was about as wild of a frame as we've seen all season long. Touchdowns on 7 of the 8 possessions total in the frame. Only the FAU interception early in the fourth quarter was not a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Then you had the onside kick. Florida Atlantic converts on the onside kick. They get it back. They go down and they score. But Navy had drives of 3, 4, and 1 plays for a touchdown. 3 different drives where they scored a touchdown on less than 4 plays. That's the difference in the ball game. As Navy, as a good team, as an experienced team that knows how to win football games, put it away when things were tight. And when Florida Atlantic was trying to close the gap, they wish they would have had the onside kick. There were a couple turnovers in that game Navy wishes they had back, but at the same time, you can't really knock them for what they've done. They've played the schedule in front of them. They're still undefeated, and they, at least to this point, haven't made the crucial mistake that has ended up in a loss. Now, things are going to get tough for the Navy midshipmen going into the last part of this schedule, starting with the opening day of November. Oh, my goodness. Look at this. UNT, Notre Dame, South Florida, Memphis, and Army. These teams combined are 28-10, Maria.
28-10.
28-10?
When our producer, Zach Fisher, told me that coming into today, I already knew that November was going to be hard for Navy. And we've been talking especially about North Texas, South Florida, and Memphis today, through this entire year, how good they have been. And then you throw in Notre Dame there, who competed for a national championship last year. And so I think that we knew it was going to be hard, but did we know it was going to be this difficult? No, absolutely
don't think so.
Not.
And, of course, you're going up against a team like Notre Dame, who lost those 2 games early. They haven't lost since they started 0-2. Of course, Memphis just beat South Florida, who was a top 20 team. And then Army is the defending conference champion, and they're the team that's holding up the loss column for the most part out of the final 5 games on Navy's schedule. This is the toughest schedule in the American, and it's not even close down the final 5 games of the season. It starts this week against North Texas. This is where we're really going to see just how real the Navy midshipmen are. I think they are real. They've got a defense that forces turnovers. They got a defense that can, for the most part, stop the run. The one thing that they can't stop is really passing attacks. Teams have been able to throw all over Navy throughout the year, including Florida Atlantic this past week. Should be easy going up against a team like North Texas, who doesn't throw the football around very. They throw the football around pretty well, including a new American Conference record. 608 yards from Drew Mestamaker last week. A new American record, taking over the current starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, Dylan Gabriel's previous record that was set back in 2020.
I'm chuckling a little bit because when you mention struggling against the passing attack, and then we look at what North Texas has done this entire season, and then what Drew Mestamaker did last week, I am even more excited for this game because I think the thing about Navy is that they don't shy away from any challenge. How are they going to handle this challenge? Because we already knew those other games were going to be difficult for them, but now going up against an offense that attacks what could be considered one of their weaknesses, how do they respond? And I say I circle a lot of games on my calendar because all I do is watch American Conference football or work an American Conference football game, but I actually have this one very much circled on my calendar because I think that for North Texas, how do they now respond in yet another big game? Because we had question marks when they were going into that matchup against South Florida. They regrouped. They beat UTSA handily the week after. Now they go against Charlotte, which we got to talk about the first half because that was a little.
Can we talk about that Charlotte game real quick?
Let's talk about the Charlotte game
because I do want to give my keys to North Texas and Navy in a minute, but we're skipping ahead on the rundown. Let's go back to this Charlotte North Texas game. You're right. The question marks were certainly there in the first half because both teams were able to move the ball pretty much at will. They were moving the ball fine, but a couple turnovers from both sides, and all of a sudden you look up at halftime and it's 17-17. There were more passing yards in the first half of this game than any other game, and it's not just North Texas, but with Charlotte as well. More passing yards in the first half of this game than any other FBS game on the entire 2025 schedule that had happened so far. This was a Friday night in Charlotte. Queen City was rocking. You could hear it in the background. They were excited to see what their team could do, and I was really impressed with Charlotte. I thought they played good football, and they took advantage of their opportunities. However, North Texas and their offense is inevitable. And we saw that in this matchup because even when they were down 20-17, you just had a feeling at some point it would click. You had a feeling at some point Drew Mestemaker would stop with the fumble and the interception that he had in the first half, and then at the start of the second half, he would find his rhythm. They found their rhythm and put up 37 unanswered points, over 600 yards passing. This was a wild football game, and the score is not indicative of how close this really was.
No, and here's the thing. It's once North Texas's offense clicks, then it's kind of like a waterfall, and you can't put up a dam in front of it. They're just like, it's just going to go right through. But I have to give credit to Charlotte, especially the Charlotte defense. I think that's what impressed me the most in the first half because an offense like North Texas doesn't get held to 17 points very often. Yeah. We saw that in the second half, right? But I want to give Charlotte credit in that first half. But, man, when Drew Mestemaker gets going, you physically can't stop him. And it's not just him. It's the way that Eric Morris calls plays and the different weapons that they have. Because they have people who can run the ball, too. And I think that this second half of this game just highlighted it even more. We already knew it. I'm not going to say it wasn't a surprise to us, but it just really emphasized it. And it made me add an extra circle around this Navy North Texas matchup, which we can go back to now after I diverted us in a different way.
Hold on. I still want to talk about Wyatt Young. We cannot forget about Wyatt Young.
Okay.
This guy put up 371 yards over the last 3 games for North Texas. He had multiple touchdowns in the win against Charlotte. That's the most yardage of any other FBS player in that same time span. Over the last 3 games, Wyatt Young has more yardage than anybody. So not only are they talking about what Drew Mestemaker did from a national standpoint, people need to be talking about what Wyatt Young is doing at this point. North Texas scoring 50 points 4 times this season, and they did so in back-to-back games. The last and only other time that ever happened was back in 1951. Whew. So North Texas is on a historic streak. It's completely different than what we've ever seen from North Texas across the board. And Drew Mestemaker now a record holder in the American Conference in program history. And this is a guy who didn't start a game since he was a 9th grader at Vandergrift High School out in the hill country here in Texas. He's 2nd in the FBS in passing yards. He's 4th in passing touchdowns. This is one of the best stories in all of college football. And I think people are finally starting to really give it the legs that it needs to. We've had him on the show before. We've talked to him. We've talked to Eric Morris. We've talked to Hank Dickinson. We've talked to people around this North Texas program. They feel like this game against Navy this week is their redemption for what happened against South Florida.
Yeah.
That's their whole mindset is they felt like they had a shot against South Florida. They let it slip in the early parts of the third quarter. This is a chance for them to once again prove that against the team that's receiving votes in the AP Top 25, that is undefeated this year, and to try and get their way back into the Top 25 or into the Top 25, this is the week to do it.
And how cool is it that you have a second opportunity in a season? Because that doesn't happen all of the time, And I think that I had a lot of faith in North Texas going into that South Florida matchup. And like you said, they just let it slip away a little bit. And I think that I had their game right after they lost to South Florida. They had the bye, and then I had UTSA. And I think that was all Eric Morris talked about was the way that they responded and how well they responded. He got on them really hard that week after. But then the way that they came out and just dominated against UTSA, I think showed that, okay, they could rebound in that capacity. Now they have another opportunity at a big game. Can they take what they had and apply that to this one?
You know what's really funny? about the record-breaking performance that Drew Mestamaker had this past weekend. The record that he broke, that was the program record anyways, for passing yards in a game, was originally set back in 2007 against Navy. It was either the freshman record or the overall record. I can't remember which one. But that game, the only other time Navy and North Texas have ever played was back in 2007. That final score was 74-62. Only other time the Navy has ever made the trip to Denton. 74-62. That's an incredible score. There was a lot of yardage in that game. And so for North Texas to come off the game that they just had where they had 600 passing yards and then go right into another matchup of Navy coming to town, which I said overall it was the first time in Denton and only time in Denton. This is the second meeting in Denton. It's going to be a fun one. Navy, number one rushing offense in the country. Number one right now, 318 yards per game. Going up against North Texas, which ranks 118 in rush defense. There's going to be a lot of ground game for Navy. Passing-wise, North Texas is sixth in passing offense, 318 yards per game. They're going up against the 115th ranked passing defense from the Navy midshipmen. This is good versus bad, but it's really good versus good. Two teams in the only game this week of two FBS teams that have 7 wins or more. I'm excited for this matchup, and I think both teams are going to be playing at a very high level come Saturday morning.
Yeah, I love it. I think that you just highlighted everything that this matchup's going to be. My thing is, we had this discussion about the South Florida North Texas game. Is it going to be that super high scoring game, or does like a defense like exploit that weakness?
Yeah.
You know, that's my big question.
I think it will be.
I was completely wrong when I picked my North Texas South Florida score.
I don't think it's going to be 74-62 like it was the first time these two ended up meeting in Denton, but I do think it will be a high scoring affair. Maybe close to what we saw with Navy and Florida Atlantic. One team in the 40s, one team in the 30s, something like that. It's going to be a fun matchup. But here's one thing for you, Maria.
Okay.
I've been inspired by you.
Oh,
I've been inspired by you for a little bit.
I need to know where this is going.
You have no idea. I haven't told her anywhere what this is. It is literally marked as pumpkin spice.
I am looking at the rundown, and I'm like signaling to Kyle, like, I don't have any notes on this.
Yes.
Like, let's move on.
Don't worry. I've got plenty of notes, and this is all that matters. I'm going to make a bet with you. And it's okay. It doesn't involve anything that would harm you. But
okay.
I've been looking for a way to make my own morning miles. For those that follow Maria Trivelpiece online, she does her morning miles where she gets up and she gets her cardio in. I'm not like that. I'm not built like that. I'm not a cardio guy. But I want to find creative ways to get my cardio in. So how about this? These are my terms, and I want to see if you accept my terms. I'm going to call this the Mean Green Miles.
Okay.
For every point North Texas scores, I'm going to run 0.1 miles.
Okay.
And it has to be completed in one setting.
All right.
And it has to be completed prior to the next All-American taping.
Okay.
And I have to give photo evidence, and fitness will be required. The fitness mapping on my watch will be required.
Okay.
All of this to be said. If I fail at this, and this is the accountability that you get to have for me, and I feel like you'll enjoy this.
Okay.
If I fail at this, I have to do a penalty run around this lake that is next to the American Conference studios.
Okay.
I have to do a penalty lap around it, and you and our producers here get to follow me on a golf cart and throw things at me as I'm running around.
Love this. This is the best surprise I've ever gotten.
I figured you would enjoy this.
This has made my day 10 times better.
And if you think I'm not serious about this, I want to let you know I'm absolutely serious. I'm going to make this happen, because if they put up 54 points against Charlotte, I had to go 5.4 miles, and I did it in the hotel fitness room in Starkville, Mississippi this past weekend prior to Texas-Mississippi State play-by-play this weekend. I went 5.4 miles on the treadmill.
That's hard.
It was terrible. I hated every moment of this, but I feel like this could be fun for the fans too, because
I love this.
People know I'm a North Texas guy. It's in my bio. I call the games for them. I graduated from there. I'm a big fan of the Mean Green. But now you understand that if I'm speaking from an unbiased perspective on this show, you now know that I'm also getting hurt every time they're putting up points. I'm in a little bit of pain every time they're putting up points. They put up 54, and I said, you know what? I'm doing it. And I went
All right.
5.4 miles. I've got the fitness tracking and everything.
5.4 is hard in and of itself.
I'm still sore to this day.
5.4 on a treadmill, Kyle, is like so impressive.
I thought I was going to die.
I'm going to give, that makes sense. You better hope that the Navy defense steps up then a little bit this week.
We'll see what that, but there you go.
There we
so
go.
that's what you have to look forward to for the rest of the year. That is Mean Green Miles. And I'm going to post it on social. We're going to get it out there. It's going to be a thing.
I love it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
all right, Mean Green Miles.
Not too bad, right?
Not too bad.
Did I scare you a little bit, though?
The pumpkin spice thing was throwing me off. I was, like, really panicked because I was like, dang. I was like, did I not prep for something?
What is this?
Yeah. My anxiety increased by 50%. But it was worth it. It was worth it.
We're going to have some fun with it, though.
Okay.
All right, let's preview some of these matchups quickly over the next few minutes. Tulane and UTSA. Here's what Tulane has remaining on their schedule. It's not necessarily a cakewalk in their own right, but they've got some winnable games down the stretch as they look to try and pave their way to a conference championship game appearance again. As you seemingly always find the Tulane Green Wave, they're finding their way into a conference title. My thing is it a good thing or a bad thing that they've had all these close games? Because if you're talented, but you haven't played your peak football yet, that could be a good thing. All these games have been close. But it could be a bad thing if you maybe aren't as talented and you're just skating through the way that they have over these last few weeks. What do you think about Tulane and what they've got the rest of the way?
So I think you make a good point, right? But I think that they are very talented. I think they're making mistakes that they shouldn't make, and we've heard John Summerall talk about it a lot because I think that they have all of the pieces. It's just not completely and it's funny that I'm saying it's not completely clicking. They're undefeated in conference play, but it's not clicking how I'm sure John Summerall and his staff want to see it. So I think that they have yet to play their best football. I think that these games for them coming up are winnable, but you need to play clean football. I take a look at that game against UTSA, which, you look at each team's record and you would think, okay, Tulane's going to win this one, but it's at the Alamo Dome, which we know how well UTSA plays at home.
Yep.
And if Tulane doesn't keep it clean and play how they should, they could find themselves maybe in a tough spot. But I do think they're in a really good position to win out. Now, it's not going to be easy. They have Memphis right after UTSA.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
But I think they put themselves in a really good position to not only win the American, but host a conference championship game and set themselves up for a spot in the CFP.
Absolutely.
It's all right in front of them. They control their own destiny.
It is very possible. And yes, until you fall in a game, you will control your own destiny. If you're Tulane, I think you got to consistently convert in the red zone. They've converted on 87% of red zone possessions, which actually doesn't sound too bad. It's probably like right around the late 50s in terms of rankings. 87%, not bad, not so fast. 30 red zone trips, only 14 touchdowns. They have struggled to punch it in. They have 12 field goals, which is tied for the third most out of any red zone situations throughout the year. So they're scoring on less than 50% of the time in finishing with touchdowns. They're kicking field goals, which is fine, putting points on the board. But when you play Memphis and you play UTSA, even Florida Atlantic, that's an offense that can get up and down the field a little bit. You're going to struggle to win games, much like you did against East Carolina. That's a great example. Field goal, field goal, field goal, field goal. And then that game came down to the wire, and whoever had the ball last was ultimately going to win that game. Army, same thing. You got to be able to score touchdowns. I know it's the name of the game. I know it's as simple as that. But if you're Tulane, just get it done. You're a really good football team. You'll be fine in that regard. And if you're UTSA, I think you have to get somebody other than Robert Henry going on offense. If it's Owen McCown, that's fine. If it's the tight ends that are super talented, then fine. If it's those wide receivers that are veterans on the boundary, then fine. Get somebody else other than, not exclusive to, but other than Henry going, and I think you'll have more success across the board as a ball club.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think we kind of covered what the keys for each team would be. I think it's going to be interesting because I know this sounds so cliche, but every game in the American is anybody's game because I once UAB beat Memphis, that just confirmed it for me because
anything can happen.
Anything can happen. UAB looked really good, and Memphis played well, but they just faltered in some spots. Then they rebounded.
Well, let's talk about a couple non-conference games. How about that are on the slate this week? Starting with the Commander-in-Chief Trophy, round number 2. And this could make it to where Army and Navy are going to be the game that decides the Commander-in-Chief Trophy again. However, Air Force has something to say about that in this matchup because they, of course, played Navy really close a couple weeks back. They're going to show off that ground game. They love running the football quite a bit in this matchup. Where do you feel like this could be a close game between Army and Air Force?
I think it's definitely going to be a close game because you look at Air Force's record, it's 2-5, right? That's not indicative of the football team that they are. Every game that they've played has been within a couple points. I think they're just there on the cusp of having a much better record. They played Navy really close, and I think Army's been playing better football, but I think it took them a little bit to figure out who was going to play quarterback, how they were going to get things going. So I have faith in the Black Knights, and we're here at the American, so it's an us versus them mentality, right?
Yep.
So I'm rooting for the Black Knights in this one all the way, but they're going to have to play a clean football game. They're going to have to rely on that run game, and they're going to have to be consistent because I think that's what Army has struggled with, is being consistent on both sides of the ball.
I really do think that Army is going to be best settled whenever it comes to stopping the run, more so than even Navy was in that early matchup. I think Air Force is going to struggle to run the football against the physicality that Army brings to the table. And I think it's going to be a close football game, but whoever can stifle the run better will win this game. And it's about as plain and simple as that could be. On the other side, you've got UConn, who we talked about earlier, falling to Rice in double overtime, taking on UAB, who's coming off of a bye. This is a rematch of a game last year that UAB had won. They had this game in the bag. It was 20-3 at halftime. Ended up losing 31-23 the final. UConn coming off the loss to Rice, heartbreaking fashion. They look to make a statement against an American Conference foe again. But UAB's coming off of that bye where they won the battle for the bones going into it. One of two things that they've done or will continue in this game. It's either going to be UConn finding their momentum or UAB continuing their momentum against what they did against Memphis a couple weeks back.
Well, I was on this game last year, and you see from that shot right there.
Rain.
First half, completely dry. UAB's up 20-3 at the half. The sky's just completely open up in the second two quarters. UConn fights their way back. And I think, we talked about the UAB defense last year struggling, and especially then the offense struggled as well because of the weather. So the thing is, it's hard to compare last year to this year because everybody's new in college football. I think my biggest question coming into this matchup with UAB is who's going to play quarterback for the Blazers, because Ryder Burton has something to say about it now after that win against Memphis. And so I think that's going to play a big part in this matchup for me, because I think UAB does have some momentum now. So does Coach Mortensen ride Burton, or does he go back to Jalen Kitna? And I think it also depends on Kitna's status, which he says he's progressing with what his injury was from 2 weeks ago. So.
Yeah, and we've talked about how much I enjoy Jalen Kitna, and I think he is a legitimate quarterback. But Ryder Burton's the hot hand in that offense. It's not going to be a permanent thing, nor should it be. You should never lose your job due to injury. But like you said, using both of those guys, if they're both healthy, I think is important, because you're going to have to throw the football in this game. You see what UConn can do through the air. The defense, though, for me in UAB, they're the key. They're the ones that are going to hold the keys to this whole thing in their hands. They have to stack stops like they did against Memphis in that win in order to even give the offense an opportunity to win this game. UConn, even in the loss to Rice, put up 30-plus points. They're going to score at different times. UAB has to be ready for that and convert when need be. So lots of great games across the board, I think, this week. It's going to be fun to see how each of these teams respond, because, Maria, it's nearly a full slate of conference action going into Week 10 of the college football season.
Week 10, and we have 10 teams in action. When you look at that graphic, Kyle, who are you circling?
Of course, it's Navy, North Texas. That's the best game of the weekend in my eyes. And Daku Stadium is going to be rolling again against the Midshipmen. Only game in the FBS featuring two teams with 7 wins or more. But I think a sneaky game on this schedule is that Tulane and UTSA matchup coming up on Thursday, ESPN, primetime. Thursday night. I think that game's a great matchup between a team that's desperate in UTSA and a team that's just been skating by with Tulane. And then how about East Carolina Temple? I know you'll be on the sideline for that one. Watch out for the Owls. They've got to win one more to be bowl eligible for the first time in quite some time. This might be their best shot to do so.
I'm so excited for my game this weekend because I think that we talk so much about those teams, those top 5, right?
Yeah.
In that upper half. And I feel like East Carolina and Temple, we don't forget about them. We talk about them, right? But they're like right on the cusp. If different things happen, they can be bumped right up into those top spots that we keep talking about. And this game is going to determine who will have the upper hand in that battle.
And, of course, anytime that a Commander-in-Chief trophy game is played,
yeah,
you got to pay attention to that. But across the board, I mean, really, really good week of football for college football and especially for the American Conference.
Lots of good games this week, Kyle, but I want to transition from one form of football to another form of football because the Memphis women's soccer team is undefeated in the regular season. Look at that graphic right there. Second undefeated regular season in program history, ranked 3rd, which is their highest ranking in program history. So the Tigers are rolling, and naturally we have to talk to one of the great players on that Memphis women's soccer team, Finley Lavin, and she's going to join All-American.
Oh, let's talk about it. Hey, Finley, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Even better now that you've decided to join us. I know you've got a busy schedule. You've got a full slate of games and conference games and a conference tournament to get ready for. But just kind of take us through to the start of this season and what has been a special campaign for the Memphis Tigers so far.
Yeah, I mean, we're a super young team, so we kind of went in this year kind of just playing every game, hoping, we'd win. And I think once we started to win a lot of games, we were like, wait, we can do something with this. And now that our whole team has pretty much gained experience, we've just kind of taken each game at one step at a time, and we've just been winning.
What was the moment for your team where it clicked, where you're like, oh, wait, we're pretty good?
I don't know if it really has clicked with us. I think since we're so young, it's kind of like, okay, like we just want to play. And I think that every game we're like, oh, it's just another team. It's just another game. Like, let's go out and win because winning's fun. And we don't want the season to end.
I like that. Winning is fun, and you've not just been winning. There have just been clean sheet after clean sheet on that defensive line. Now, you've started every match in that back line for the Memphis Tigers in that final look for your goalkeeper. What's been the key for the defensive success that the Tigers have had this year?
I think the defensive 5 that we have, we're super close on and off the field. So I think our relationships all together have been really key to be able to help each other grow, but also just perform at our best every single game.
Yeah, 10 shutouts throughout the season. You in conference play shut out number 25 Rice. You shut out South Florida. You shut out Charlotte. East Carolina was 5-0. And then at Tulsa. I mean, you aren't giving up a ton of goals. Just 2 goals over your last 6 matches combined. Now, when you talk about the defensive prowess, what could somebody that maybe hasn't watched Memphis Tigers soccer yet expect whenever they turn on the TV and they see you guys playing at a high level?
In the terms of defense, I would say we don't let people shoot the ball. We don't let people cross the ball. So you'll see us putting our bodies on the line every time the ball is in the final third and just making sure the ball doesn't go anywhere near that 6-yard box and the goal.
Now, we talked about the defense. Let's highlight your offense a little bit as well, because I feel like both units are just working so well in tandem, Finley. You have players like Ashley Henderson and Ai Kitagawa. For you, what is it like having them in front of you and just being such threats on the offensive side?
It's great. It's great to see how well our midfield and our offense work together. I think their bonds as the midfield and forwards together it's crazy good. To be able to have them be able to produce the goals and the assists that they've had, and then them also help us on the defensive end. It's a great mix that I think all 3 lines of our team have.
Now, you of course have a rich tradition at Memphis whenever it comes to soccer success and success within the program. Even the year before you really stepped into the role that you're in now, this Tigers program won the Defensive Player of the Year title. Haley Spray won it in 2023. Then you win it last year, and you're a first-team all-conference honoree, and now you're back for 2025. Is this just a tradition that we've come to expect out of this program, and how much does that mean to you to be a part of that?
I mean, I think we definitely are hoping to keep the the tradition going. I was here when Haley Spray won it, and to be able to keep the defense in a lock to where we've been, to be so powerful as a defense, I think it's been awesome. And it's great to get the award. I just want to give credit to my whole defense. I don't think it's just me. I don't think it's just one person. So to be able to give our whole defense that award would be way nicer.
I think the one fun thing, there's multiple fun things to watch about your team. Let me restart this question. I think one of the coolest things about this team has been the way that they've been so consistent. And so now you're getting ready for the postseason. For you guys, how have you been approaching it? What have been some of the conversations as you head into the American Conference tournament?
The main approach is the job's not done yet. We started the season going in with the goal to win the conference, to win regular season, and to get as far as we can in the NCAAs. So we just know that, this part of the season's done, but job's not done, and this part is even harder. So let's go in it, and hopefully we can come out with the win.
Finley, what is the ceiling for this team in 2025? Because, of course, you want to go and win another conference championship, but with the rankings that you are receiving as a program right now, and I know you don't want to read too far into it, but is this a team that can contend for a national championship?
I think we can. The sky's the limit for us. And I think people, they don't see Memphis as a threat just because of our name. Like, oh, we're not a Power 4, Power 5 school. But hey, we can compete. We've beat a lot of them this year, and just because we're a smaller school, I don't think that says anything about us. And I do think we have a chance to go really, really far in this tournament.
You tied number 2 Tennessee. You beat number 11 Vanderbilt. We talked about what you did against number 25 Rice, defeating the Owls 2-0. I mean, this team is tremendous. And note to everybody around the country, Memphis is a threat. Finley is a threat. Finley Lavin joining us here on All-American. Finley, thanks again for taking some time. Good luck in the tournament. Good luck to wrap up the rest of the regular season. We look forward to watching you guys play down the line.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So much fun talking with her, talking a little football. I even brought, you see, I got the soccer ball here.
That
today.
was really impressive.
Thank you.
You've been really on point with your props this year.
Have I?
Yeah. Did you ever give that helmet back to North Texas?
Don't ask me that question.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you give that soccer ball back to whoever you took it. But
probably not. We'll see. I've been on my prop game because I hold on to them for next time for whenever I need it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
No, this is great. It's got a good feel to it. I love it. You know what else is fun when it comes to props and costumes and different things along the way?
What's that?
Halloween. It's Halloween week.
It's Halloween weekend. Halloween.
Halloween. Yeah, because it's on a Friday this
Friday,
year.
yeah.
A lot of American Conference action throughout the week, by the way, both on and off the football field. What has been your best Halloween costume you've ever had? We're going to rank our top 3.
Okay.
I'm going to let you go first, let's go back and forth here.
Okay.
But what are you thinking?
All right, so I got to start with my number 3. I was an angel
when
I was younger, and the reason that I'm going to give this my number 3, I'm the one on the right. Okay, that's my cousin on the left, but my mom really outdid herself on this because look, she even got the photo with the praying hands, right? And look at the gold on the wings and the crown.
Yeah,
I feel very angelic in that. So
keep going on yours. Yeah, because
okay.
I want to see how this evolves as we go along.
Okay, so number 2. I thought could have been number 1 because it's very on brand for me, but I was a League of Their Own. And
there's no crying in baseball.
There's no crying in baseball. There was crying in softball. I'm just going to let you know that. I probably cried way too much, and my dad yelled at me for it because he brought me up on a League of Their Own. So this was number 2. I actually have gotten multiple uses out of this costume. I love
Interesting.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very comfortable.
You look like, what is the main character's name in that?
Oh my goodness.
Rosie?
No, Dottie is.
Dottie. That's who I'm thinking
the
of.
main one?
Yeah,
okay.
Dottie is who I'm thinking of.
I should know the answer
I
to
think
that.
you fit the bill.
Okay.
You fit the Dottie
I even
bill.
had the red lipstick. I don't even wear lipstick, and I brought it out for this
Hey,
costume.
that's commitment.
All right, so I picked number 1, and this is gonna haunt me because I had glasses. I was a pirate, and
I was about to say, is that a pirate?
It's a pirate, so I picked it because there's a pirates in the American. So
East Carolina.
Yeah, so I thought it was really on brand. We talked about the pirates today, so I had to pick.
East Carolina fans,
pirate costume.
Would Maria ever have an opportunity to take a picture like this next to Petey the Pirate?
Oh my god.
That's my question.
Honestly, I don't know if that costume would fit me anymore though. I think I was like in 5th grade here. Maybe 4th grade.
Yeah,
You can't even see me with those glasses.
I can't. You're right. I can see you, but you can't see me with those glasses because, oh man, Maria. That's interesting.
I know. I thought you'd have funnier comments. That's honestly.
I'm kind of stunned. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah?
I think
you didn't think this was number 1.
I think it was great. I think your best costume was A League of Their Own.
A League of Their Own. So that should have been number 1.
This one should have been number 3. I'm sorry. This one should have been the 3rd one. Even the angel and your
The angel.
Yeah.
I was Minnie Mouse once, but I couldn't find a picture of it. That was like actually my favorite.
That's
was
pretty
cute.
funny. I'm sure.
I was a little bit
All right.
in this one.
No, that's not true. I can't even tell that from this photo. All right. Moving on to me. Here's the first one. How about Cat in the Hat?
Cat in the what?
Cat in the Hat.
The Cat in the Hat.
Yes.
You were really blonde.
I was a blonde kid, and my kids are blonde too. Like
you
my
look
boys
just
are.
like your boys. Your boys look just like you in this photo.
It's
That's
like
wild.
copy paste, and
Literally.
I've got 2 identical boys, and
Man,
it's.
and Lorena literally had to carry them, but they look like you.
Yep. That's part of it.
I'd be mad at her if I were you.
See, now we got to find Cat in the Hat, and we got to make sure that Leo and Mikey dress up as Cat in the Hat, just like their dad did. Now we move on a little bit older this time around. I've got a little sass in this photo. I don't know why.
The hands on the hip.
Yeah, I was
All
a
right.
race car driver. I was
Okay.
big into NASCAR when I was a
Okay.
kid. I mean, our fans in Charlotte would understand. I know that I have a lot of the racing love and a lot of the racing scenarios there. I love that, and so I loved this costume, and that's probably why I have a little sass there.
Okay, I like the sass in it. I'll give you that.
Okay.
Let me see your number 1.
Yeah, I got another one here.
hold my
This one's
comment.
going to be interesting. I'm on the left of this photo.
Okay.
And this was right around when Party Rock Anthem came out with LMFAO. And we dressed up as the Party Rock Anthem LMFAO guys. So that's like the robot in the middle. That was one of my best friends, Jacob, in high school. He's got like the Party Rock shirt on. Jace is the guy on the right there. That's another one of my great friends from high school. And he was the frizzy-haired gentleman, and I was the other one. So we were LMFAO, Party Rock Anthem, all the way through and through. And this was about as committed to a costume as I've been since I turned maybe 15.
Okay. Well, I will say I appreciate the creativity and the commitment in this one, but
Oh, yeah?
I like your number 2 better than your number 1.
You like
as
the
well.
the sassy race car driver?
The sassy race car with the hands on the hips. Yeah.
But I'm the one on the left there, and we were committed. It was a fun costume though.
Okay.
It's a great great song too.
Yeah. All right, Kyle. I'll give it to you for the commitment level because I think you were very committed to this costume. Still think your 2 is better. I also think that our producer, Zach Fisher, has a much more higher level of commitment on Halloween.
Okay. What do you mean?
He went
full, that's what you mean.
Founding father, like slicked back hairspray gel.
Oh, President Zach.
Yeah.
I like this.
I know.
How about that?
I wonder if he like sang in a musical when he wore this.
Yeah, I was about to say, what's the occasion here? I mean, I'm sure it's Halloween, but they didn't even.
He just dresses up like that to the office.
Yeah,
once a
nobody
week.
even like cleaned up the room around him. Like, there's like an open desk drawer.
As
There's like
somebody who works in TV, he should have checked the background.
That's what I'm saying. He's a producer. He thinks of everything.
Yeah, he was young in this photo.
He was focused on the costume.
And the stance.
Focused on the costume is what's happening here. I like this.
I like it too.
This is number 1 out of all 6 of ours, and it's not even really close.
Zach Fisher wins. Number 1.
I will pay him $1,000 out of my pocket, which I don't have right now, but I'll find a way to get it. I'll get a donation. We'll get a GoFundMe going. If he'll wear this to his rehearsal dinner on the wedding weekend that's coming up over the next few years. That's my
His fiance
pitch.
would love that.
I'm sure it would be
when she's watching.
it would be awesome. And I guarantee he still fits in it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. He's got it like in the back of the closet. He probably wore it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna clip this and send it to his fiance. She's gonna have some words with you, Kyle.
Just saying, I can't wait. All right, let's get into some top plays, shall
I love
we?
some top plays.
You get us started. Number 5. We got to go back to the football field. We were just talking some football. How about some football?
All right. Well, we always talk about the Navy offense. So how about the Navy defense this week?
Yeah.
That's Coleman Colley with the interception. I love that. We have so many funky interceptions this year, I feel like. This is
Yeah.
another one.
This was a funky one, and I love that the guy who helped force the interception wasn't even looking
Nope.
at the right time. He was just like trying to make a play, head down, make a hit, be physical, and then everything else just kind of falls into place. That's kind of what Navy has been. Physical defense constantly, and then, hey, let the chips fall where they may. And that was a very nice play on the defensive side.
We love it. Let's take a look at number 4.
Let's go to number 4. How about that? Charlotte women's soccer. We just talking about that Memphis squad. How about this one? Back of the net. How about the laser? That's an absolute laser. Charlotte against Tulsa. 49ers get it done with Reese Black with the left foot.
Whew, I just watched this over and over again, and I'm like, I wonder how many miles per hour that ball was traveling.
Yeah, I don't know if the goalkeeper had any sort of chance on that one because
I don't think so.
she would have had to leap and make square contact. It looked like she may have made a little bit of contact, but that was about it.
Nope.
Not this time.
Not today.
Well done, Reese. Got it done.
Let's do some more soccer. This time, though, the men's side of things. This is Philippe Sabati in goal for the Memphis Tigers. He says, not today. He does make contact with that ball and bats it away.
He's been on top plays a couple of times this year, right?
I think so.
He's got, oh,
Ooh.
yeah. No, thank you.
That-
Rejection.
Oh, look at the hands on the head.
Can you say his name one more time?
Philippe Sabati.
You got to say it with like a little.
I think he's actually from Croatia. He's not
Yeah,
Italian.
he's not Italian.
So I'm just saying it like that because I'm from the Northeast, and there's like a lot of Jersey Italians that I'm like really good friends with, and that's immediately where my head goes.
Okay. I'm gonna go with that. Good job, Philippe. Well done, sir. Left hand. Great save. On to number 2. This one comes from Tulsa. Baylor Hayes. We talked about it earlier. Scrambling out of the pocket, has to avoid the pressure, going straight backwards. What a dime. I talked about this early in the show. This was just a dart. Could not have ran the ball down there and handed it to him better. What a catch. What a throw. Everybody get it done.
Well, I was just, there I am. I was very impressed by it live as well.
I didn't even catch that the first time around.
Yeah, you didn't.
You're just chilling on the left side there.
The sidelines at Tulsa are not very big,
No.
and I had like a first row seat, and I was just stunned. I'm like, first of all, because if you watch, Hayes throws this like falling backwards, and then for Foley to keep a foot in too,
Yeah.
I was, and that puts them up at half. Like they were trailing the whole first half, which we already talked about.
Yep.
But they come back and he makes that catch, and I'm stunned. To the, where
Yeah, here it is again. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh, there she is on the side.
That was top play number 2.
That should have been top play number 1 just to have you
just
on
to
there.
have me.
Yeah.
I'm glad it was not.
What is number 1, Maria?
Oh, you ever heard of Byron Brown?
I have heard of Byron Brown.
He's pretty good at football.
He is good at that,
He's a
huh?
very good quarterback.
Yep.
He does a lot of things well, including running for touchdowns because he dodges a defender, stays on his feet, and then hurdles a defender.
That last move there when I was watching this tape, I shook my head. I immediately was like, really, Byron? You got to do that? And, of course, at this point in time, they were in full control. Whoop! Said, no, thank you. Made it look easy. Honestly, if you're not watching closely, you could probably see that play flash across your screen and be like, oh, that's a pretty nice 44-yard run. Whoop! Nope. It was the hurdle, the broken tackles, and that's exactly what Byron Brown can do at the quarterback position. He is a menace. South Florida is going to be fine. They lost that game to Memphis. They're a really good football team. They have the 2 losses. They're going to need a little bit of help in order to make it back to a conference championship, in order to make it to a college football playoff, but they are a really good squad. And I think the Bulls should be remaining in the top 25 just to be safe, but not the case this week.
Yeah, I think they should still be in the top 25.
I think they should too.
We talked about it a little bit before, but I don't know. We're going to keep harping on it because I think both them and Memphis are top 25 football teams, and just because one beat the other, I can't. We are running out of time. I'm gonna get
real worked up.
Yeah, I can't do it. But anyway, Memphis, South Florida, both very good football teams. We think that they should be in the top 25. There's also a lot of other really good football teams in this conference, and we have a bunch of those fun games coming up this weekend.
Oh, it's going to be a great weekend. Of course, like next week, you've got the women's soccer championships. You've got football coming down to the wire. We got all sorts of sports. This is just a sports show, huh, Maria?
We love the sports.
We love sports. Thanks for joining us here on All-American from Studio A. For Maria Trivelpiece, I'm Kyle Youmans. We will see you next week.